Shia versus Sunni. Explained. To understand the Shia-Sunni divide, you have to begin not with theology, but with a political crisis. In 632 CE, the Prophet Muhammad passed away without leaving an unambiguous, universally accepted plan for who would lead the Muslim community, the Ummah, after him. Two broad positions emerged from this crisis. One group believed that leadership should pass to the most capable and respected companion of the Prophet, chosen through consultation among the community's elders. This group accepted Abu Bakr, one of Muhammad's closest companions and father-in-law, as the first caliph successor. They became what we now call Sunnis, from Ahl al-Sunnah wal Jama'ah, meaning the people of the prophetic tradition and the community. The other group held a fundamentally different view, that the Prophet had explicitly designated his cousin and son-in-law Ali ibn Abi Talib as his rightful successor, most prominently at an event called Ghadir Khum, where Muhammad reportedly declared, "Whoever takes me as his master, Ali is his master." This group became the Shi'at Ali, the partisans of Ali, shortened to Shia. For the Shia, what happened next was not merely a political miscalculation, it was a profound injustice. Ali was passed over 3 times before finally becoming the 4th caliph, and even then his rule was contested. He was assassinated in 661 CE. His son Hassan relinquished the caliphate under duress, and then came the event that would permanently crystallize the Shia identity in grief and resistance. In 680 CE, Hussein ibn Ali, the Prophet's grandson and Ali's son, refused to pledge allegiance to the Umayyad Caliph Yazid, whom he viewed as corrupt and tyrannical. He marched toward Kufa in modern Iraq with a small group of about 72 fighters and his family, having been promised support from sympathizers there. That support never arrived. At a place called Karbala, his group was surrounded by a massive Umayyad army. On the 10th of Muharram, a day known as Ashura Hussein, and nearly all his male companions were slaughtered. The women and children were taken captive. For Sunnis, Karbala was a tragedy, a regrettable episode in early Muslim political turmoil. For Shia Muslims, it is something categorically different. It is the paradigm of suffering and martyrdom for justice. It is relived annually through the observance of Ashura, which involves mourning processions, lamentation, passion plays, taziyeh in Iran, and in some communities, acts of ritual self-flagellation, though many Shia scholars discourage the latter. The language of Karbala sacrifice, standing against oppression even unto death, runs through Shia political theology, art, and resistance movements into the modern era. It was invoked by Ayatollah Khomeini during the Iranian Revolution. It echoes in Hezbollah's rhetoric. It animated Shia resistance in Iraq. The Imamate, the core theological difference. If the original split was political, it quickly became theological, and the heart of that theology is the doctrine of the Imamate. For Sunni Muslims, the caliph is a political and administrative leader of the community, ideally a pious and capable man, but not possessing any special spiritual authority or infallibility. Sunni theology emphasizes the role of the community's consensus and the established legal schools, madhabs, in guiding Islamic practice. The caliphate is a human institution that can and did become corrupt. For Shia Muslims, particularly the majority 12er Shia, Ithna Ashariya, the Imam is something far more exalted. The Imam is the divinely appointed, spiritually infallible guide of the community. This authority descends through the lineage of Ali and Fatima, the Prophet's daughter, through a specific line of 12 Imams. Each Imam possesses special religious knowledge transmitted from the Prophet and is protected by God from sin and error. This is not a human election, it is divine designation. The 12th Imam, Muhammad al-Mahdi, is believed by 12er Shia to have gone into occultation, a form of hidden existence, in 874 CE. He did not die. He is present but concealed and will return at the end of times to fill the earth with justice. This doctrine of the hidden Imam profoundly shaped Shia political theology. If the legitimate leader is absent, how should the community be governed? This question lay dormant for centuries and then exploded in 1979 when Khomeini offered his answer. Wilayat al-Faqih, the guardianship of the Islamic jurist, arguing that senior scholars should govern in the Imam's absence. This is the theological foundation of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and it remains controversial even among Shia scholars. Hadith, law, and practice. Where the differences manifest. Hadith collections, the recorded sayings and actions of the Prophet, differ significantly. Sunni Islam relies on 6 canonical Hadith collections, the most respected being Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Shia Muslims use different collections that include narrations transmitted through the Imams. This means that not only do they sometimes reach different legal conclusions, they work from partially different evidentiary bases. Legal schools diverge as well. Sunni Islam has 4 major legal schools: Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, and Hanbali, each with somewhat different methodologies and rulings on everything from prayer posture to commercial contracts. Shia Islam follows the Jafari school, named after the 6th Imam, Jafar al-Sadiq, who was a major figure in developing Shia jurisprudence. One notable ongoing difference is that Shia jurists retain a stronger role for ijtihad independent legal reasoning and the living authority of senior scholars, Marius, remains doctrinally significant in a way that has no precise Sunni parallel. Prayer looks slightly different. Sunnis generally pray with arms folded across the chest. Most Shia pray with arms at their sides. Shia practice often allows the 5 daily prayers to be compressed into 3 prayer times, combining Duhr with Asr and Maghrib with Isha. During prostration, Shia place their forehead on a small clay tablet, turba, made from sacred earth, often from Karbala, a practice Sunnis do not follow. Shrines and intercession. Visiting the shrines of the imams and seeking their intercession. Tawassul is a central feature of popular Shia practice. Pilgrimage to the shrine of Hussein in Karbala or to the shrine of Imam Reza in Mashhad are major acts of devotion. Many Sunni traditions, especially the Salafi and Wahhabi currents prevalent in Saudi Arabia, consider this shirk, associating partners with God, and have at various points destroyed Shia shrines. This is a live flashpoint of sectarian tension. Internal diversity, not 2 monoliths. It is important to resist the temptation to see Sunni and Shia as uniform blocks. Both traditions contain enormous internal diversity. Within Sunni Islam, the spectrum runs from the mystical Sufi brotherhoods of Morocco or Senegal, with their saint veneration, music, and ecstatic prayer, to the austere, anti-shrine Salafism of Saudi Arabia. Sufi Sunnis and Wahhabi Sunnis sometimes seem more different from each other than either does from moderate Shia practice. There are also significant regional and ethnic flavors. Sunni Islam in West Africa, Southeast Asia, Turkey, and the Arab world each carry distinct cultural expressions. Within Shia Islam, the majority tradition is Twelver Shia, dominant in Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Bahrain, and Azerbaijan. But there are also Ismailis, also known as Seveners, who follow a different line of imams and today are led by the Aga Khan. There are Zaydis in Yemen, who recognize a different 5th imam and whose theology is in many ways closer to Sunni Islam than to Twelver doctrine. The Alawis of Syria, the sect of Bashar al-Assad, represent yet another offshoot with beliefs so heterodox that mainstream Shia scholars have historically questioned whether they belong within the tradition at all. The modern geopolitics, how religion became a proxy war. The Shia-Sunni divide in the 21st century has been catastrophically weaponized by political actors. This requires some care to disentangle, because much of what looks like ancient religious conflict is in fact modern political competition dressed in religious garb. The Iranian Revolution of 1979 was the turning point, when Ayatollah Khomeini established the Islamic Republic as explicitly a Shia theocracy with regional ambitions. It alarmed Sunni majority states, above all Saudi Arabia. Riyadh, sitting on the world's largest oil reserves and claiming custodianship of Islam's holy sites, viewed Iran as both a geopolitical rival and a theological threat. Saudi Arabia responded by massively funding the global export of Wahhabi/Salafi ideology, building mosques, funding madrasas, and spreading a version of Sunni Islam that was more explicitly anti-Shia than anything in the classical tradition. The result is what analysts call the Shia Crescent, a perceived arc of Iranian influence running through Iraq, Syria, Lebanon via Hezbollah, and Yemen via the Houthis. Iran funds and arms these groups not purely for theological reasons, but for strategic ones. They extend Iranian power and create deterrence against Israel and the United States. Saudi Arabia and its Gulf allies fund counter-movements. In Syria, a catastrophic civil war was partly fought along these sectarian lines, with Iran and Hezbollah propping up Assad's Alawi-dominated government while Gulf states funded Sunni rebel factions. The 2003 American invasion of Iraq removed Saddam Hussein, a Sunni Arab, who brutally repressed Iraq's Shia majority and effectively handed political power to Shia parties with ties to Iran. The Sunni Arab minority, stripped of power and economically marginalized, became fertile recruitment ground for al-Qaeda in Iraq, which transformed into ISIS. ISIS declared the killing of Shia to be not only permissible, but obligatory, a position that has no mainstream support in classical Sunni jurisprudence but was used to justify mass atrocities. It is worth being precise here. Most of the violence called sectarian in the Middle East is not primarily driven by ordinary believers nursing 1,400-year-old theological grievances. It is driven by states, militias, and political entrepreneurs who have found sectarian identity to be a powerful tool for mobilization and who have deliberately sharpened divisions that in many communities coexisted relatively peacefully for generations, shared ground and prospects for unity. Despite everything, Sunni and Shia Muslims share far more than they disagree on. Both confess the same Shahada, there is no God but God, and Muhammad is his messenger. Both observe the 5 pillars of Islam in essentially the same form: prayer, fasting during Ramadan, the Hajj to Mecca, zakat, charitable giving, and the profession of faith. Both revere the Quran as the identical, uncorrupted word of God. Both honor the Prophet and seek to follow his example. On the great questions of Islamic ethics, justice, mercy, care for the poor, the sanctity of life belief, the traditions are in profound agreement. There have been serious ecumenical efforts. The Amen Message of 2004 to 2005, initiated by King Abdullah II of Jordan, brought together Islamic scholars from across Sunni and Shia traditions to affirm that both are legitimate expressions of Islam and that takfir, the declaration that a Muslim is an apostate, used to justify killing, cannot be applied to anyone adhering to a recognized school. The message was signed by hundreds of the world's leading Muslim scholars. Al-Azhar University in Cairo, arguably the most prestigious institution in Sunni Islamic scholarship, has at various points engaged in dialogue with Shia scholars. There is a body of scholarship sometimes called taqrib, or rapprochement, dedicated to identifying common legal and theological ground, history, power, and identity. The Shia-Sunni divide is simultaneously ancient and modern, theological and political, deeply felt and deliberately manipulated. At its origin, it was a question about who should lead a political crisis that became a theological one. At its core today, it involves genuinely different understandings of religious authority, the nature of the imamate, and the correct transmission of the Prophet's legacy. But to reduce contemporary sectarian violence to ancient hatreds is both intellectually lazy and politically convenient for those who benefit from division. Ordinary Sunni and Shia Muslims have lived as neighbors, intermarried, and worshipped in each other's mosques for centuries in many parts of the world. The intensity of sectarian conflict ebbs and flows with political conditions, with access to resources, with the presence or absence of authoritarian states that exploit identity, with the degree to which outside powers choose to arm one side or the other. Understanding the divide requires holding two things in tension. The differences are real, and they matter to the people who hold them, and yet those differences on their own do not explain the violence and enmity that characterize parts of the Muslim world today. For that, you have to look not to the 7th century, but to the 20th, and to the choices of states, armies, and political leaders who found that the oldest wounds are the easiest to reopen. If you want to learn about the end of the world from every religion, watch this 8-minute video. If you want to understand Judgment Day according to every religion, watch this 26-minute video.